Professor Robert J. Aumann, or as I'd rather say, my friend Bob, thank you for agreeing for this interview.
Actually, I'm your grandfather, yes, right.
Oh, you are? Yes.
Yeah, I'm your scientific grandfather.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. You did a doctorate with Zamir, right?
Zamir and Pelek, and Bezalel Pelek, which is also your son.
Zamir and Pelek.
Yes,
so
yes.
You're
I'm
twice my grandson.
True,
Yes.
true.
Okay. But sir, also friend,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yes.
We are doing it on this time on the occasion of your 90th birthday, and we agreed with Ilan Kremer that that's going to be a routine every 10 years from now on, and I hope you'll agree.
Every 10 years what?
Every 10 years we're going to repeat this interview.
Okay, oh, absolutely, okay.
I've been asked often by friends, game theory friends, whether you still come regularly to the center, and my answer is always almost regular, except for the time where you are busy with hiking, right? This is a correct description, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Excellent. We are blessed by this.
Sometimes I also go to another city to give a lecture or something like that, but that's,
wonderful.
And basically it's true.
Wonderful. Okay, so I want to start with the very beginning, which I understand is Frankfurt. Right?
Yeah, Frankfurt am Main in Germany, right, in 1930. So, that's it.
And you were there, I guess, until you were 8, right?
In 1938 we left.
38. 38 was pretty late for leaving. This was after the Kristallnacht or before?
No, it was in August of 38. On Tisha B'Av, actually, on Tisha B'Av.
Wow.
But it was before Kristallnacht.
Right.
Yes. So it was gut spät, like one says.
Do you have any memories from...
Absolutely,
yeah?
yes.
Can you tell us one memory from the time in Germany? Hmm?
Yes, yes. I remember very vividly on the stores, there was many stores. There was a sign in a beige color with black letters that were made to imitate Hebrew.
Yes.
And Hebrew fonts. And the text was Juden sind hier unerwünscht. Yeah. Which means Jews are
unwanted here, yes.
That's right, in the store, yes. So, of course, the Jewish stores didn't have that sign, but most of the other stores did. And that made a lasting impression on me, absolutely, yes. I have another memory which is really indicative of what was going on in Germany at that time. In March of 1938, there was the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria to Germany. And after the annexation, the people were asked to vote on this. There was a plebiscite to approve of it or disapprove of it, yes. And everybody was allowed to vote, even Jews. Even at that time, Jews were citizens of Germany and they were allowed to vote. They had other problems, but voting was allowed, yes. And the rabbi of our community voted no. Okay? So he was arrested. So one could ask, wasn't this a secret vote? Yes, how did they know? Well, it was a secret vote, but they knew.
But they knew what he will do.
Okay, so they arrested him and put him in a concentration camp. I mean, the concentration camps were not yet fully developed at that time, but they put him away for, afterwards he was released after a week or two, but he was arrested. Yeah. And the Jewish community was aghast at this, but my brother, who was 3.5 years older than me, and I discussed this matter, and we said, actually, it's okay, because he should have voted yes. We should have voted yes. No was the wrong thing to vote, and if you do the wrong thing,
you should be
get
punished.
arrested. So I was 8, not yet 8.
You
and,
understood
not yet 8,
the,
and my brother was 11, and 2 Jewish children, yes, who were sometimes beaten up on the way to school, had this idea. I mean, this shows the extent of the brainwashing. Yeah?
Yeah.
In other words, this wasn't a craze of an individual person. It was a craze of
the
a
whole
whole
society,
people,
yeah.
of a whole society.
I'll tell you a related story that I heard from my father when it was 1934, his uncle is knocking at the door, completely sweat, and he was asked what happened, and he said, you know, I was passing through a rally, a Nazi rally, and I initially got feared, but after looking at them, I just couldn't oppose it. I joined them.
Yes.
And shouted Heil Hitler together with them. So
Yes.
he was stunned, and that this story affected him. But you know what? My father came to left Germany about the same age that you left.
Yeah.
His brother was much older, and the fact that he left so young, okay, meant that he placed his childhood memory somewhere else, and he was longing all his life to get back to this childhood that was taken away from him. He never boycotted anybody. He was traveling to Germany very often, had lots of friends through the years from Germany. But your reaction was different, I guess, right? What was your attitude towards Germany after the Holocaust?
Well, I did travel to Germany, but there was a feeling of a slight feeling of uneasiness with traveling to Germany. I never traveled to Germany for vacations or sightseeing or tourism or anything like that. Only professionally. I did travel to Germany professionally, and yes, and this I'm not sure that it's a I'm not sure that it's a rational.
It's
not a
emotional.
rational response. It's not thought out. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, one could speak for it or against it, but that's
no, it's only a matter of
that's,
feeling.
But yeah, I sort of feel with the whole Jewish people that you know, one can keep one's distance. Yes, something like that. Yes, something like that. Not maybe forgive, maybe not forgive, but certainly not forget. Okay.
Forget is
okay.
Yeah.
Certainly not forget, and certainly make this a part of your life.
Yeah.
But I think that is that matter of being swept up in a societal activity. Yes, it's not an individual. Yeah, let me tell you about a marvelous German film that I saw maybe 15, 20 years ago, something like that. It's called Die Zwillinge, the twins.
Yeah, the twins.
Did you know the picture?
I don't think I have seen it, no.
Okay,
no.
but have you heard of it?
I heard of it,
You
yes.
heard of it. It's a marvelous film. Let me tell the story of it. There's this identical twins, girls, identical, whose parents are killed in an automobile accident sometime in the 1920s, the early 20s. And their relatives start fighting over who gets the twins, yes. And there's one Dutch couple and one one German couple who, I'll make a long story short, it's very well done, the picture. And they finally, the court decides that the Dutch couple will get one of the twins and the German couple will get the other one. It's a very bad decision because, as you know, identical twins have an unusual relationship usually, yes. So they maintain contact for a while, and then the German twin falls in love with a German boy toward the end of the 30s, and finally she falls in love with him, and he tells her about the renewal of Germany and Hitler and so on. So he's enthusiastic about it. And he joins the SS, and they get married. And the Dutch twin, in the meantime, during the war, falls in love with a Jewish boy, yes. And what happens eventually is that the Jewish boy that the Dutch woman, the Dutch girl falls in love with, gets deported and presumably exterminated. And the SS husband of the German twin gets killed on the Russian front. Okay. Stupidly killed, yes, somehow. He's a truck driver, and he drives a truck, and there's some soldiers who go out to some fighting activity, Pula, how do one say it in English? Yes,
an action.
An action, and he has to wait in the truck, and a bomb falls on him, and he gets killed, or a shell. All right. Now, after the war, the twins renew their correspondence and their acquaintance, and the German twin comes to visit the Dutch twin in Holland, and they stay. She's planning to stay for a few days, and the Dutch twin goes to the German twin's room to make up her room, and she sees a picture of an SS officer there on the chest of drawers, and she asks her in the evening, "Who is this SS officer that you have a picture of?" And she says, "That's my late husband."
Yes. Okay.
So she throws her out of the house. That's the film ends many years later in an old age home when they meet again. But I think the point of the film is that people are not free agents to do what they want.
They're shaped
the idea of free will is a chimera. How does one say it? A chimera.
Yeah.
Yes. I never know how to pronounce that English word. It to some extent, to a small extent, it exists. Yeah. But we are actually the products of our
society, our group,
our collective, the
collectiveness.
To which
yes.
we belong.
We'll go into this. I know you have a lot of ideas in this, and we'll go back into it. But
what I don't forget is German society.
Yeah.
Right.
German society, however, changed very, very drastically.
I don't know. We have now a renaissance of anti-Semitism in the whole world, and not least in Germany. Yes, okay. Yeah. They know how to do this. Okay. Yes. Actually, the Germans are very good at whatever they set their hands to. Yes. And so they're good at anti-Semitism also.
Did you have any problem accepting the honorary degree from Bonn University that was offered to you in the late 80s?
I did have doubts, and I wrote to Werner Hildenbrand. I had doubts for 3 weeks. Yes.
Really? Mm-hmm.
I hesitated for 3 weeks after the rector of the University of Bonn wrote a handwritten letter, because that's what they do in those cases. Yes, they write handwritten letters to offer me this degree, and I hesitated a long time, and in the end I wrote to Werner, who is a good friend. The German, he's a good friend.
Yeah.
Still a good friend, although I haven't seen him in a few years.
I saw him recently. He's doing okay. Yeah.
He's doing okay. And I said, I will not do this to my friends to turn this down.
Yeah.
But I did hesitate.
Yeah.
Yes, I did hesitate.
Good. I mean, Bonn, I think I did my postdoc in Bonn, very much with your help. You recommended me there, and I had my only trouble in Bonn was the Wilhelm Krehle.
Correct.
Do you know Wilhelm Krehle?
Sure, yes. Is he still with us?
No, he's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But he was actually an SS
Really?
officer. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was actually going there from Berlin, where students rebelled against him being a professor at Berlin.
Because he was an
because
SS?
he was a Nazi, because he was an SS officer.
I don't think that would happen now.
That won't happen now. Okay, time has passed. That was late 80s.
You know, let me tell you a story about Krehle. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I was invited to dinner in his home. I'll tell you 2 stories.
Okay.
I was invited to dinner in his home. Yeah.
Okay.
and as often happens at formal dinners, there was a place. Each person had a place to sit down at the table. Yes. There were maybe 10 or 12 guests. Each person was given a place. There was a place card. Here you sit. Okay, so we sat there, yes. And of course we arranged kosher food and so on. All right, but that's beside the point. And then after dinner, we got up, and as often happens, we went to the living room and sat down in the living room.
Yes.
And this is the unusual part. Also, for after dinner, Krehle told everyone where exactly to sit in the living room.
Really? Okay, so that's. I think that's where probably that was part of his education in the military.
So that was unusual. That never happened to me again.
Yeah.
But another story is this, and this is not about Krehle.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that he was part of SS. This is the first I hear of this. I was once traveling in a train in Germany, yes. And there were 4 other people, and you know, they have these compartments in the old trains. I don't think they have them anymore, but they were quite nice to have these compartments with just a few people, not
6 seats, yes.
So there were 5 of us, 4 Germans and me. And I said to one of the Germans, where were you during the war? So he said, you know, I was actually part of the plot to kill Hitler.
Oh.
Yeah, I was actually part of the plot to kill Hitler. And they killed most of the people there. But I managed to get away, and I survived, and now I'm here. I asked the second German, where were you during the war?
I was with him.
Yeah, so he said, well, I spoke up, and I'm a Protestant minister. I spoke up, and I was put into a concentration camp. But of course, they didn't kill us, yes, like they killed the Jews, yeah. I asked the third German, where were you during the war? So he said, you know, I was opposed very much to the government. But speaking up would have meant death or
Yes.
yeah. So I didn't speak up. I accepted it
Yes.
to my sorrow. I asked the fourth one,
Okay.
where were you during the war? He said, I was in the SS. And it's too bad that Hitler didn't finish the job with you people.
Really?
That's what he
Okay.
said to me. So I said to him, finally, an honest man.
Man.
Can
Yes.
you watch my valise while I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad and funny. Yeah. Okay. We now move to move continents, and I want you to tell us a little bit about your education. I mean, you can start with university, Yeshiva City College, I guess, right?
Not Yeshiva City College. I'll tell you about my education, okay? It started the education, I came to the third grade. I'd finished two years of school in Frankfurt.
Well, you started with yeshiva and then...
No, wait. I started with public school 87.
Okay. So
public school 87 was at that, we lived in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. In other words, somewhere around Amsterdam Avenue and 77th, 76th Street, something like that. And that's where PS 87 is. It was at that time considered a very good school, and it's still considered one of the best public schools in the country, okay? So I did half a year there, and then my parents decided that this couldn't continue. The children must, I had one brother, the children must get a Jewish education, and there was no Jewish school in Manhattan at the time. Yes, in January of '39. So we went to Borough Park. We moved to Brooklyn, where my parents, where there were two Jewish schools. We went to one of them, the more modern one. The other one, the language of instruction was Yiddish. And here the language of instruction in the Hebrew part of in the Jewish part of the curriculum, it was Hebrew. Hebrew, Ivris.
Really?
Ivris,
Zionist Hebrew.
Not Zionist Hebrew, Ivris, yes. Okay, not Ivrit as it's spoken in Israel today.
Okay.
And the language of instruction in the general part of the education was English. And we finished there, okay, and then I went to high school in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, at the Rabbi Jacob Joseph High School and yeshiva. It was a yeshiva tichonit, what they call over here, a yeshiva high school. And this is actually, I think, where I was formed, in that high school. I had two marvelous teachers. I mean, all the teachers were good, but there were two marvelous ones. One of them was a teacher of mathematics.
Okay.
And the other one was a teacher of Talmud. Okay, and
your best
pious
two hobbies. Your best two hobbies.
a pious man, and that really, those were formative years. It's just 3.5 years, but those were formative years. After, at the end of that, I didn't know where to go. Whether to continue with a Torah life or a Torah education, or whether to continue with mathematics. And I agonized for half a year. I did both. I got up in the morning at 5:30. Okay, went to the city college, not yeshiva college.
The city college, yes.
City college, okay, uptown New York. Traveled for an hour and a quarter, then to take one course in calculus, then back down to the Lower East Side, 3/4 of an hour, until about 1 or 2 in the afternoon to study Talmud. then back up to City College for another 3/4 of an hour to continue the secular studies, and then at home by 10 o'clock and then doing homework. And it just didn't last. I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
After half a year, I said, I have to make a decision. And I decided on the math. So I went to City College. I did not go to Yeshiva University.
Okay.
Why not to Yeshiva University?
Tell us.
Why? Because Yeshiva University was considered treif in our circles. It was considered, I don't know,
Really?
how do you say treif in English?
Excluded.
Like meat that you're not
Yes.
allowed to eat, like pork or
Yeah.
something like that. Well, maybe not like pork, but it was considered not
Forbidden.
appropriate. Not
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Not appropriate for people of my ilk, okay? So I would rather go to a place which was absolutely not Jewish than go to Yeshiva University.
Okay.
And of course I've changed my colors completely in that respect, and now I'm, I guess, the closest. Now I'm in English. In Israel, it's called knitted kippah.
Knitted kippah, yeah.
Knitted kippah. But in America, I don't know what it would be called. I guess it would be called modern Orthodox.
Yeah. But before, where you were strict Orthodox, okay.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you did math. And this was common among strict Orthodox to
Oh,
do
yeah,
both
yeah. secular
and religious education?
Absolutely, yes.
And so how come it's not the mainstream today among strict Orthodox in Israel? Why have we become to a stage in which secular education was pushed aside by a major part of Israeli population which defined themselves as strict Orthodox?
Haredi.
Haredi.
You know what you remind me of?
Tell me.
Yes, I was involved in a scientific controversy. Yes, I don't even remember what it is now. Yes, something about counterfactual conditionals or something like that. Something in epistemic game theory. Okay.
Yeah.
It was something in epistemic game theory, or the meaning of if. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you make the various different meanings of if? Is it only the mathematical meaning that if A then B means that either not A or B? Yes? Yeah. Is there another meaning to it? Yeah. Yes. I was involved in this controversy. I don't even remember what side I took. By the way, my memory is failing, so I'm looking forward to that interview in 10 years.
We'll refresh your memory before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was very. It was very clear that I'm right. Yes, and I gave my talk actually in Berlin. Yes, at a university in Berlin. I gave this talk, and I said that this is a matter of controversy, and I'm going to present my side of the controversy.
Yes.
And I gave reasons why I'm right. Yes. And after the talk, people asked me, but what does the other side say? So I said, ask them. Don't ask them. Me. Don't ask me. I'm not going to be able to explain their position well because I disagree with it.
Let me suggest the position. Let me suggest, and tell me if I'm right or not.
Yeah.
My take on this is that by making sure that the young generation will not be exposed to secular education, you reduce substantially the outside options of these kids. And by doing so, you make sure that they will remain in the community because they have nowhere to go. And they will abide by the rule of the community. And this is sort of a strategy to influence these people so that they remain extreme, they remain uneducated, committed to the community, which is a good thing. But maybe all the other things are not so good. Is this something that makes sense as an explanation?
Yeah, I think it could make sense as a as the deep explanation of the phenomenon. I don't think it's conscious. Okay, I don't think it's conscious. It's I think the consciously. I think the idea is that to devote yourself entirely to a Torah life and you'll be able to make a living. I think, unfortunately, I think many of the Haredis actually are supported either by private charities or by public money, yes. And I don't like it, but somehow the community gets along, and many of them do manage to support themselves also, okay? They open businesses or they do other things, and their feeling is that you really don't need that much secular education, okay, in order to make a living. The Talmud says that a man is chayav adam lelamed et bno umanut. A person is obligated to teach his children
a profession,
a living. Yes. That and not only the Talmud, also the decisors, the people who say what the rules are, the rule makers, yes, which is derived from the Talmud. But
I think they came around this by declaring religious study as Torato Umanuto. Yeah, we have a profession. That's our profession.
Omanut means a way of making a living. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So
and Maimonides is very, very much opposed to is very much opposed to this. There's a passage in Maimonides which very strongly condemns this. Yes, I haven't learned all of Maimonides by heart, far from it. Yes. But I think that he condemns this in the strongest possible terms, yes, and the Haredi community knows this. So they say, okay, so Maimonides says it, so usually he's right, but on this one he was wrong.
Okay, yeah. And then PhD in MIT, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't really game theory that
No, it wasn't game theory at all. And I'm very glad that you raised this. What it was
I see what it is.
That's right.
That's on your time.
That's right. It was not theory. Yes. And I did my thesis in
not from
K-N-O-T.
Not from but K-N-O-T,
like a knot in a tie. The theory of knots, which fascinated me for a number of reasons. Okay. I had, as an undergraduate, I'd read a lot of number theory, and what was fascinating about number theory is that the questions are very natural. They are easy to formulate. Yes. It's very hard to do anything in number theory. Some things are easy, but much of number theory, let's put it that way, is very deep.
Yes.
Very, very deep mathematically. And the last, but not the least important, is it's absolutely useless. Yes, absolutely useless. You couldn't do anything at that time. Now it's different, it has changed, okay? Now it has changed. So then I
took cryptography, right?
Cryptography, yes. So in graduate school, I took a course in algebraic topology, or a number of courses in algebraic topology from George Whitehead, and he and I became fascinated with algebraic topology. and
Here,
the
Bob, if you want some more water,
and then I became interested in knot theory, and the reason for becoming interested in knot theory is almost the same reasons. First of all, the questions are easy to formulate and extremely natural, even more natural than the questions in number theory. When do two knots come apart? When do they not? Yeah. If you have a drawing of a knot in front of you, when do they come apart and when don't they?
Yes.
And also you cannot provide you can't say anything without deep knowledge of algebraic topology. Okay, and the last reason also, it was at the time absolutely useless. Okay, and in honor of my doctorate, which was on alternating knot, my wife, yes, of blessed memory, who was a silversmith, yes, made this Ticlis.
Oh, wonderful.
Made this now this maybe you do a close-up or something like that. Can you do a close-up? This is an alternating knot. Here. Okay.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
This is an alternating knot, and she made this, and my thesis was about alternating knots. So alternating knots can have one component, like this one, or they can have several components. Alternating means that when you make a drawing of it, as you follow along the knot, it goes under and over and under and over. First under, then over, then and not twice under or twice over. Yes.
Okay, so it must be alternating in
alternating going under and over. And if it has more than one component, it will not come apart. It cannot come apart.
Wow.
I was the first to prove that, to publish a proof of this.
Wow.
I was the first to publish a proof of this. So, okay, that's my thesis. And it was not in knot theory at all, in game theory at all. Yeah.
But then came game theory. So how did game theory came?
Okay, that's also an interesting story. Yeah. In my last year in graduate school, that was 53, 54, okay, John Nash joined the faculty of MIT, where I was doing a doctorate.
Yes.
Nash, of course, is the high priest of game theory or something like that. Okay, and he had just done a thesis in game theory at Princeton University, and I spoke to him. I got fairly friendly with him. Yes, I won't say we didn't become close friends, but fairly friendly. And
this was before he got sick, right?
Yes, but I think the seeds of the sickness were already
there. Yeah,
they were already there. We didn't see it at the time, but they were already there. It was very flamboyant. I'll give you an example. He once gave an exam in probability theory to prove, on an exam, one of the questions on the exam was, prove that pi is a normal number. Now, a normal number is a number which, when you expand it to a decimal expansion, the digits, the 1/10 of the digits are 1 and 1/10 of 2 and 1/10 of 3 and 1/10 and so on. So
uniformly distributed.
Okay, not uniform. Well, 1/10 each, 1/10 each, and that to any base also, not only to base 10. Okay, that's a normal number. And a famous open problem is pi normal? Yes, it appears to be normal.
So he gave it
it was an open problem at the time in 1954 or 53, and it's still an open problem today, okay? And he gave it on an exam question, yes, as an exam question. And he was, after that, he was called to the dean's office, and the dean said, "What the hell do you think you were doing?" And so he said, "Well, I figured that if it's on an exam, some bright kid
might solve it.
You know, I think part of the difficulty may be that people are afraid of it somehow, psychologically afraid of it, yeah. And he might solve it on the spot in order to get a good grade."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Nash was there, and I heard some game theory from
Yeah.
him, and it didn't particularly attract me. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there were dueling problems and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It didn't particularly speak to
Mm-hmm.
me. But I did hear about it, and after getting a doctorate, I went to work on Whitehead's recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I went to work for an operations research consulting outfit, which was part of Princeton University, part of the mathematics department at Princeton University. It wasn't located in Fine Hall, which was the center of the mathematics department, but it was in the Forrestal Research Center, which is 2 miles from the campus, but it was part of the mathematics department,
mm-hmm.
and I went to work for them. And one problem that came to us was that Bell Laboratories were developing a ground-to-air missile.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked us, in connection with that development, what happens when you have a squadron of aircraft mostly carrying nothing,
mm-hmm.
but some of them carrying atomic bombs, nuclear
mm-hmm.
bombs.
Yes.
So who do you shoot at? What do you do? Yes, and at that time there weren't many nuclear bombs around, so you couldn't equip all of them with nuclear bombs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the problem. It came to my desk, and I did what I could with it, but I immediately recognized after the conversations with Nash the previous year that this was a game theory.
Yes.
Game theory.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know what I would do with this problem now, but at the time I analyzed it and I wrote a report.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got interested in game theory for
Right.
its own sake.
Right.
And maybe...
Right. That was also the period where you and others were involved with Rand Corporation, or Rand Corporation came later, or what?
Rand Corporation came much later. As a matter of fact,
I just mentioned a few names that were
after that period, when I finished the postdoc period, okay. As I was finishing, so this postdoc was 54 to 56, okay? And as I was, maybe, you know, one starts looking for a job half a year before or 3/4 of a year before. So I turned to several places in the United States and to the Hebrew University.
Yeah, I know the story. One of that would come later.
Okay,
that would come later.
Well, let me just say one thing. Okay, that'll come later. Yeah. Okay, but now let me say right now, since you're asking about Rand.
Yes.
At that point, I turned to the Rand Corporation to become an employee of the Rand Corporation, and they turned me down.
They turned you down.
They turned me down. That's right. So I did get. I think throughout my career, at least the early part of the career, yes, I got a lot of acceptances, yes.
Yeah.
But the top places turned me down, okay? And at that time, Rand was top in that. In game theory, it was top, okay? And I thank the Almighty that they turned me down. Because if Rand had accepted me, I would have gone, and I never would have come to Israel.
I see.
And
Okay.
and my life would have been different. And as I say, I thank the Almighty with all my heart that Rand turned me down. Okay. The other place that turned me down was when I applied to graduate school. Yes. Okay. And I applied to 6 or 7 graduate schools after City College, toward the end of City College. And I was accepted by all of them, but I was turned down by Princeton.
Really?
Princeton was considered the best mathematics department in the world at that time. Yes. Maybe it still is, I don't know. Maybe Harvard is better, I don't know. Anyway, it was considered the best mathematics department in the world at that time, and they turned me down.
Yeah.
But everybody else accepted me. Yes,
well, this turning down, I think our PhD student will be very happy to hear. Okay. So we were not involved with this McNamara project where Michael Mashler, for instance, was part, Lloyd Shapley. There was a project in which many game theorists took part, and I think you once mentioned to me, or Michael Mashler once mentioned to me, that the whole idea of repeated game initiated there, and this was a project that involved the tension during the Cold War between Russia and the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let me tell you what I know about that. I think Lloyd was not involved in that, at least in what I'm going to tell. There was a project of the United States Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, the ACDA. Okay, this was a separate agency which was not officially part of the State Department.
I see.
But it was unofficially part of the State Department. Mm-hmm. It was housed in the buildings of the State Department and so on. And there were these negotiations which were conducted with the Russians, with the Soviet Union, to try to reduce the number of atomic weapons that are out there, okay, on both sides. And Mashler, somehow Mathematica Incorporated, which was a mathematics consulting outfit, okay, which was, the principals were Harold Kuhn and Oscar Morgenstern.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it was located in Princeton, New Jersey, where I had done my postdoc, and where afterwards I was in Morgenstern's outfit in 60-61. I went on sabbatical to Morgenstern's outfit, mm-hmm. and Mashler came in 61-62 to Morgenstern's outfit. Okay.
Okay, so this was later. Yeah.
So in 65, 66, I think, Mathematica made a contract with the ACDA to investigate this business of trying to reduce things, and this contract was basically the idea of inspection. How do you do inspection? How do you verify that certain atomic weapons have been destroyed? The inspection aspect of this was the focus of of this activity in 65, 66, I think, no, maybe I'm off by a year, maybe it was 64, 65. And involved in this project were Mike Marshler and Frank Anscombe and...
Canero, I think?
No.
Danzig, no?
No. They were out on the West Coast.
Okay.
They were not there. But in the following year, after that, then Marshler actually wrote a paper about the inspector's non-zero sum game. Yes, this is one of Marshler's better-known papers, based on that study. And then in the following year, they started a program of the continued contract between Mathematica Incorporated and the ACDA. And this was enlarging this thing to look at all kinds of game theoretic aspects of this reduction in arms and of these repeated Geneva conferences. And I came aboard at that time. Yeah. Frank Anscombe left, but other people like Gerard Debreu, Herb Scarf, and Kuhn and Jim Maybury and a number of other, Dick Stearns, but not Arrow, not Shapley.
Okay.
Arrow and Shapley were never part of this. Okay. And Hassani and
John Hassani,
John Hassani and Reinhard Selten. Okay. So a lot of these people got the Nobel Prize after that. Yeah, so this was really a star-studded group. Yes. And we worked for 3 years, I think. And this was when the repeated games, and specifically the theory of repeated games of incomplete information played a strong role. Now, the theory of repeated games of complete information had been, this was in the, had been developed, this was mentioned in the book of Luce and Rafer, which was published in '57, but it was mentioned sort of as an open problem to try to do something with that. And I think the first paper in this, the first rigorous mathematically, theorem proof, was my paper in Advances in Game Theory.
I can remember this series.
Contributions of the Theory of Games, 53, Annals of Mathematics Studies, 53. Contributions of the Theory of Games, 5, something like that. Yeah.
And obviously repeated game was one of the one of the main argument for the Nobel Committee to award you the Nobel Prize. But you then, through the years, offered an interpretation for the result in terms of real life, also in terms of politics that some people didn't like so much, and if I can sort of summarize the basic insight in one sentence, I think it was, in repeated interaction, being tough is not only good for you, but also good for the other side. In the sense that that repetition and toughness prevents war, prevent conflict. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Well, I never heard that particular summation of my contributions to my contribution to the theory of repeated games. The way I would summarize my contribution in one sentence is not that way, but simply saying that repetition induces cooperation. Okay?
Repetition induces cooperation.
Repetition is favorable to cooperation. Cooperation is more likely to
emerge
with
repetition,
in a repeated game. And the reason for this I like to give is I like to give an example.
Okay.
If a peddler comes to your house, yes, and offers you something, yes, even let's say some food stuff, okay, jam, okay, and then you might buy it, yes, in order to give the peddler a living, yes. But if you're just thinking of in business terms, you would hesitate in buying jam from a peddler, yes. The reason being that you see him now, okay, you're never going to see him again. So what's in it for him to give you a good merchandise, yes? But so if I want jam, I'll go to my neighborhood grocer, okay? I'll go to my neighborhood grocer. And the neighborhood grocer has an incentive to give me a good jam, because otherwise I won't go back to him. On the other hand, I might go and say, give me a jar of jam, yes, and then say to him, you know, I forgot my wallet at home. Could you write it down? Could you write it down on my and then I have an incentive to pay him back, yes. But if a guy comes from the street and asks for a jar of jam, he says, I forgot my wallet, yes. So both of us, we know each other.
Yes.
Now, usually this is explained by because we love each other, or we honor each other, and so on and so forth, yes, and we're good friends, and we wouldn't cheat each other, and so on. But underlying that, and that's true also, but underlying that, yes, is the fact that I can punish him and he can punish me.
Yes.
I can punish him I can punish him. It's not being tough. Yes, it's the possibility of being tough. Yes. I can punish him if he sells me bad merchandise, and he can punish me if I don't pay him. Okay, that's what underlies this. That is the way I like to explain it. Being tough is in the background. Okay, so being tough means, okay, if you sell me bad jam, I won't come back to you. I'm going to be tough. But that's in the background. It's not spelled out.
That's in the background. On the other hand, part of the toughness, and this is something that I heard you also many times say, is the commitment to exercise your opportunity to punish when punishment should arise, right?
Right. I think the commitment part is very important.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you raised this point just now, because yesterday was Purim.
Yes.
And we discussed this point. I was at my daughter's house for Purim. She had 30 people over for dinner, and then another 50 people came afterwards. We left before that because of the corona. But at the 30 people for dinner, she was there, and we discussed the husband, and you know, at the dinner we discussed this, and there's a passage in the Megillah, in the book of Esther,
yes,
okay?
Book of Esther, yes.
The book of Esther, where it says that ki ktav asher nechtav mitam hamelech v'nachtom b'tabat hamelech ein lahashiv. Okay? And this means an edict,
yes,
which has been written, has been issued in the name of the king, and has been signed with the signet ring of the king, one does not
Change
annul it.
Yes.
One does not, under no circumstances
Yes,
can
yes.
one annul this,
Yes.
yes? Yeah, okay? This is, and this is at the point where Esther asks to annul the decree that all Jews should be
Yes,
destroyed. And the king says, my dear Esther, I love you, but I can't do that because I issued the decree and it was signed with my signature ring. By the way, he couldn't read and write. The king could not read and write, yes?
Yeah.
So he signed with his signature,
Yes.
yes? And I cannot do this, so suggest something else. And then she suggests to issue another decree that the Jews are allowed to stand up for themselves, okay? But you could not annul the decree to destroy the Jews, to kill them all.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. And the reason that you cannot annul a decree, I said it, is because if you can annul a decree, then the decree is then you will always bring pressure to annul the decree.
Change it.
You have to make a rule. Yeah, you have to make a rule. You can't annul decrees, royal decrees. Impossible.
Yeah.
And that that has to be a reputation. It has to be well known, and it would undermine the whole royal rule.
Yes.
If you would be allowed to annul royal decrees.
Yeah.